Howdy. Sorry for the late start, just checking out that everything worked out alright. So, this is just going to be another development stream during really a really busy time. Not necessarily too rough. I wonder if you guys will hear if I play music. I hope not, because I don't know what to play. But I want something nice and calm and thought-provoking to accompany my experiments tonight. Let's see, I wonder what I should do about this. Anyways, so that's not interesting because nothing is going on here. So this is an insight into my likes. Nothing too crazy here, just a bunch of game development stuff, good music stuff, and good streams and stuff. All sorts of fun stuff. Let's see. This will only last a while. It's good enough. This should be good. Let's see what this is about. Anyways. Oh no, I could probably get content claim for that. Or wait, but I'm not streaming it. Credit is given. I'm not sure exactly how to express that, but credit is given. This is not my music. It's wonderful music. It's not my compilation. Help. Alright. It's my cat Oscar. I wonder what he wants. I know what he wants. Anyways, it's time to get started. So the game manager needs his own little enum. Okay, so enum game state. I forget how you define enums. C#. Let's see. I wonder if it'll auto. Yeah. Ugh. So what are some game states? Have menu prompt. So we have menu prompting equals state 0. Let's see, we'll do turn evaluation, but that's kind of like a cutscene. Oopsie. So I think a turn evaluation should go under the same thing as a cutscene, perhaps, because the camera will pan over to one guy doing another thing. Should I make a special thing for a cutscene? That might be a pain if I have to refactor it later. Yes, I will make them different things for now, just so that I can get that out of the way. Let's see. Unsure if necessary. So what I'm thinking is in like the campaign, if we like have certain cutscenes, so like a turn is not being evaluated, so I don't want the game. Yeah, that's actually necessary. I don't want the game to think that something crazy is going on when it's not. It will simply be in a cutscene. So you have menu prompting. My goodness, what is taking this editor so long? Let's see. So we have our menu prompting for when in UI. And no game events are happening. For when games turn is being evaluated, is being performed. Let's see. for cutscenes. There's not really anything more than that. Other states, let's see. I have sort of a design doc on the beginning of this next post of mine. It's weird to reference the post that I'm going to be putting this video in. Yeah, you get the idea. So you have that. Oh, yes, and tile selecting. Tile selecting. That's 3. And are there any other states that this game could have? I'm going to cap it at that for now. Yeah, that's good. What? You're being so talkative. I've got work to do, buddy. Oh well. You'll understand sometime. But not today. Let's see. Void update. So I want to do something here where I can take this and user input according to different states. So, let's see, I hope this isn't taken. Oh, I should call it this. And what we're going to do here is call this an update, instead of checking for the keys here normally. So what this will do is so a concept that I've been wrestling with here is that certain things have a different level of interactability. For example, like in menu prompting, this should accept the UI things like that, and it will in the UI class. So I shouldn't worry about that here. So here I will restrict user input to nothing, because that user input will be relevant in the UI class, not here. So then in turn evaluation, there's no input needed while the actions are being handled. Oh, you know what would be a good idea? Okay, so just to finish this up, this doesn't need input, or live input, and tile selecting does need live input. So there are 4 levels of, just 2 levels of user input here. And there's going to be more exclusive thingies in the UI class for navigating certain styles of text boxes and things like that. But for now, oh, this is in Python, I can't do that. I wanted to have a good idea, and I really have to read up on like using videos that aren't mine, because that frightens me. I don't want to get claimed or killed or anything for developing a game, but I do want to let's just do like Pokemon Battle Giovanni. I don't want the music, I want the actual battle. So this will better illustrate a lot of my ideas for the battle system. So this opening thing counts as a cutscene, and there's a text box for UI here. So let's see. Yep, this is all cutscene, no user input. Now this is going to be a text box class, or not a class, a text box UI object, I suppose, where the only interactability with this is that you can press A to advance it, and that'll be like a key event or something. Giovanni sent out Onyx, that's still another text box. This is a cutscene with, yeah, this isn't really a text box, it's a timed text box, I suppose, that goes with this cutscene, so we'll call it a cutscene. So then we have a new, oh, I've never noticed that these overlay each other like that with these dead pixels. Interesting. So yeah, this is going to be a select menu, or a selection menu object, yeah, this basically demonstrates all the things that I need. So we have one select menu, starting another select menu. So we'd still be in the, as far as the game manager is concerned, we'd still be menu prompting throughout this process. So yeah, here we go from cutscene to pow, and let's see. Now we're menu prompting. So now we're waiting on user input. User selects fight, user selects Dragon Rage. Okay, this man, I've got a quick question. He's running Growl with Dragon Rage, Ember, and Rage. Yeah, enough said. Anyways. So then this is going to be a turn evaluation after the turn is selected, which also counts somewhat as a cutscene. But the property of a cutscene where you have to watch the whole thing and you can't use your input past it. And another cutscene that's timed with a specific start and end. That was a text box, and now we're back to the select menu. So you get where I'm going with this. This is what I want to do. Or this is what I'm going to have to do in the UI. And yeah, I'm still a bit unclear on how to. Oh, there'll be a whole animation sort of thing. I think that should be a function for certain events and things like that. So basically, right now I'm worrying, at least in a little bit in advance, for here you go, opening paint. Worrying about the cutscene thingies, or like when a player with a sword goes to attack another guy with a shield, and it is the shield of the church. Just kidding. Oof, shield with a long arm. So say this guy is going to attack this guy. Once we enter the menu state, so it'll probably be a method like void, I don't know what to call it. It's like the animation of the turn, so like the turn sequence. Turn sequence, I guess. Maybe this should probably be a function so that we can iterate through it, and it takes a user, so it's gonna have to take like a card object or just a game object, I guess. Game object user target. This will be an overloaded method, so then we could also just use user for like healing things and stuff like that, and then like well, technically an overload would be the other way, but whatever, you get it. Ew, that's not a double arrow. So anyways, we have void turn sequence where the camera, let's see, camera pans to user goes about movement, user does animation, and game evaluates turn. Let's make this a bullet. Yes. Oopsie. The user does animation, the game evaluates a turn. And finally, the game updates after all of this. And fin, or fun, like they would say. Game updates after all this, end. I should do a start, just for finale. So yeah. So basically the camera is gonna go from like the whole board. I think that would be seen by like one camera. Then it'll instead go in for a closer look on what this guy's doing. So then the camera, like, will zoom in on the guy a lot bigger, and he'll be walking that way. His sword now in his left hand. Well, I guess maybe he's facing towards us, and this time he's facing away. So as this guy goes this way, the camera's panning. Yeah, and you get it. Then he does the animation and cracks this guy across the face with his sword. It's just like the little stick figures I drew as a kid. I wish I had a tablet so I could draw more things in depth, but I can't. Let's say he takes like 3 damage. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You got hit. And yeah. So let's see. Camera pans to user. User goes about movement. Yep. User does animation and the game evaluates turn. Game updates after all this. I don't mean to cross my wires, so let's do a old-fashioned circuit diagram. Whoop. And pow. And then we end. Check. And we start. Check. So that's pretty much the game logic for this. And just to make sure, yeah, that looks good. So now, this guy does need user input. And he will have so it seems both our game manager and our UI class are going to need to restrict user input at the same time, and I want to I would like to refactor this to make this more efficient so I don't have to worry about 2 states being on at the same time, because well, I guess I don't really care too much about worrying about it. But for example, let's see. So like we have our game manager, and then we have our UI class. Pow pow and pow pow. Gotta love those semicolons or colons. Ugh. Excuse me. There you go. The music is back. So if this guy is in so say he's in menu prompts. Now let's make another category. So like this, UI, and we'll do like input. Input, so like is player input necessary or valuable to this? Let's see, menu prompt. Not in game manager because it's not updating anything in game manager, but in the UI this can be like let's see, like selection menu or something like that, and input is valuable here. Ugh, I don't like the little chafing ears there. Yeah, we'll just make it red. Okay. But then, it's not really that complex of a system. It's just like, I don't want to be too inefficient, you know? So say this one is in like a turn evaluation. And this guy will naturally be in menu complete. So it'll actually, we should just name this to like an idle state. Because the UI is not really doing anything, but You know what? Is the UI really doing anything? Maybe the UI has cutscene things. That's a good thing to think about, because I was thinking somehow that Game Manager would create like text boxes and stuff like that and be, well, it's evaluating the turn. Game Manager is mostly for like cutscenes, animation, etc. The UI is mostly for, I said that, I enunciated that like a Metal Gear character. The UI is like for buttons and text and yeah. So maybe during turn evaluation this isn't an idle state because we're going this doesn't make it idle. Menu prompt naturally leads this to a selection menu or a text box or something, because this is prompting it in a menu. Then when we're evaluating a turn, do we really need a text box to like, what does Fire Emblem do, I wonder? And this is what all my design teachers used to say about standing on the shoulders of giants or something. Because a lot of times you don't know what to do. So let's see, Fire Emblem, Battle, Awakening. And I don't want the music. Can we do this without commentary? So I don't get like claimed or whatever. So let's see. Oh, this is a whole sequence. So this whole thing is gonna be like a cutscene. And there is, I guess, some, not really UI. What am I seeing? I'm looking at a cutscene. This would be something that's handled in Game Manager. And the UI for stuff like buttons, text, is not being used here because there's no buttons or See, in the way Fire Emblem works, this is where the UI goes. So we go up here. This is a UI. If we choose to attack him, this is another UI. So that was the selection menu. And, oh, this is actually a tile select menu, from which I took much inspiration. Then this is a selection menu, and then this is going to be something akin to a text box, but this is very specific to Fire Emblem, so I don't know what I would call this, like an analytic box, like a comparison box. This guy has no chance. And then we go into the cutscene, and here we display like the effects and stuff like that, but this just evaluates on its own. So this is almost like an entire turn evaluation on itself, just with a cutscene within it. And that doesn't need user input, except to make it faster. Is a select menu, and then an action is being taken after it, or a tile select menu, and then an action is being taken on the board after it. And this is such a wonderful game. I love designing my own things and then looking at other games that I'm a really big fan of. So yeah, these battles are essentially just cutscenes. And usually they duel until somebody dies at a higher level, but this is like one of the opening stages, so you get what you can, you take what you can get. Oops. And yes, so I suppose in Pokemon it would be something like what should we call it? In Pokemon it would be something like this would display a text box that's non-interactable. So I wonder what kind of, maybe that's a cutscene box? Or, oh, I remember my workaround for this. So let's see, UI text boxes. I've got to get this straightened out because I made this before and I totally forgot, so I can't forget this time, even though I will inevitably. So a UI text box. The first one is a text box. It has no user input allowed or mapped. Input is used for turn evaluation and announcements. A dialog box where user input is used to advance the message in the box. And finally, we had, I believe these were the two types, but I could have sworn I had another one. So I have a text box, which is basically like in Pokemon when it's like, oh, Charizard did a flamethrower as it's playing the animation. So it accompanies the animation. Like, let's see. Yeah, we look kind of crusty there. So like, this is like a text box because you can't interact with it. And it's going while a cutscene is going. So whatever information I need to display while a cutscene or a thing is happening, I could do that. And so this is a selection menu, and this is also another sort of text box that doesn't display anything except for useful information. Then when we select it to do the move, this is a text box. So it plays on a timer while the cutscene is going through and stuff until this animation is over. This is a dialog box because we use it to advance, and it's not just because it scrolls that makes it that way. Or is it? So I'm thinking dialog box isn't like a talking to an NPC. You know what I mean. So let's see. I have my text box, and we'll be like, let's see. We'll say, Klayble smacked Clay Dude with, looks like my laundry's done. Sorry for the scare. With a mallet. And this doesn't have any advanced thing. But say if we were to create a text box like 4.7 years ago, blah 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 blah, Lincoln was an okay guy if I remember correctly. History was never my main subject in school. Coding rules and a lot of other things drool for reasons that I won't get into. So, the purpose of this text box being redundantly long and somewhat humorous in my mind, Oscar, please, this is being weird now, is to have one of these bad boys, an advance option. It's like an advance option. And this controls the, this allows for user input. So this type of, like, maybe we call it a scroll box. I like to call it a dialog box. And there are overall just different permissions that each box should have, you know? I would like to tabulate it, but it might be redundant, honestly. And it's getting late, it's 1:09. I should be awake in 6 hours and 21 minutes, so I gotta go soon. But yeah. So maybe we call this a scroll box. Sure. Should I reinvent the wheel and make a whole text box system? Code base? It's looking like it. And that would look good on my part. But it's not all about looking good on my part. It's about making the things that are best for the game. And what would be best for the game is probably to do that, because there's no other way I can think of to implement easy UI stuff in Unity. And there probably is, and you might scream at me, and future me might yell at me too for saying something like this, but I think it'd be worth it to dabble in UI things and create something that works for me. Specifically because that's really cool. So, yeah. It's like this is what it would look like, and then it scrolls down, that shows history was never my main subject in school. Coding rules and a lot of other things rule for reasons that I won't get into. So that would sort of be how that goes about it. And yeah, that's basically what I'm thinking in terms of all of that. So to answer this question, does turn evaluation use an idle UI? Perhaps. Idle. Oops. Let's try and erase this. So it's going to be idle or something. I think scroll boxes should be implemented perhaps even as an alternative to a text box. Like if a text box has a message that's within a certain number of characters to fit in a box, or like doesn't have enough lines to fit in a box, then it becomes a scroll box, and then a scroll box by its nature has to use something to advance it. Or does it? I hate my memory sometimes, but I have to work with it because it's what I've got. And what I mean by that is that I don't remember if the things in Pokemon were really, so they're like scroll boxes presumably, but they auto-scroll for you in a battle. So when it's like leader Giovanni wants to fight, or something like that, something more long-winded that they would say. No, but I remember that prompts you, so then it's actually a dialogue box. Okay. So let's say it's gonna either be idle, and then with a big fat orange, or, cause it's like kind of a double entendre because orange, you know? Yeah. Or a box of some sort. So input is going to be a maybe. Let's see, and then in cutscene is going to be cut from the same cloth. So user input in a cutscene is going to be for the game a no, because the cutscene is going to be scripted, and it's either going to be idle or another, ew, the orange colors are kind of contrasting. That one's more of an orange cream, I like that. Anyways, it's going to be idle or a box, some sort of box. Input, yes, perhaps. And then what was the other state that we had? Tile selecting, oh my. So this depends currently. I'm not sure what answer I had gotten originally from everybody. Oh, this is my friend. I took his Joy-Cons by accident. And I'm also Shadow the Hedgehog. Let's see, from me. I get to see what I said. Like more for a tile. Oh yes, so if it's one where I can mouse over to a tile on the board and select it, that's going to be one for the actual game. So it's going to be an on-click event that actually will refer to you clicking the object. So if it's clicked, it'll probably return itself. And then we do this. And, oh, streamer mode. Thank goodness. I'm not really sure what all this means, but I think it's like to not dox myself and everybody with their numbers. Yeah, let's see. One where you can mouse over to a tile on the board and select it, or one that's in a little menu to select tiles in battle. And so basically, I was wondering if that should be handled here or here. So then the one where you actually mouse onto it in battle, then this would be a yes and this would be a no. But in the one where it's a little UI representation of it, this would be a no and this would be a yes. So it turns out that we don't accept user input in any state in here if that's the case. And that's definitely interesting, being that you navigate the UI the entire time, and that's the only place that should handle controller input and things like that. So, yeah, at least for a battle scene. Fascinating. I suppose I didn't know that. I'm going to say that we do something like this. And when it's a tile selecting, this is going to be a special box. It's going to be a special grid box. We'll call it to be a more meaningful name than just tile box. Because grid box will look like this, and it'll be a little less ugly than that, but it'll represent changes that occur on the actual board. So say that there's an enemy here, and my color scheme is inconsistent, I think. I'm not really sure, but we'll put like a little guy here. It represents him over here, and maybe the user is over here, and he says thumbs up. And the user is leaking. This looks more like a middle finger. Whoopsie. And here, say we can select a tile to move to. Ooh, yellow is not a good color for that. Let's do purple. So we select a tile to move to. Move. Pow. And then in the actual thing, his turn will be set to move. And I still have yet to see how I'm going to implement this whole turn data thing. I am very, very excited for this, actually, because ooh, there's just a million ways I could do it, and I can't think of one right now. I was thinking of perhaps a struct for maybe a struct for that might be inefficient on data. So like, let's see, struct turn data, and it probably have, let's say it has a vector 2, current position, vector 2, current position, and then a 2 position. Let's just call it final position, as this is a move. So we have vector 2 final position. This might be a good way of handling things. I'm kind of proud of myself for thinking of this. So we have a vector 2 of the current position of the user. So in our example, this would be, what would this be? If we start down, so this would be 0, 2. Its final position would be 1, 2. Since we go 0, 1, and then 0, 1, 2. And then, let's see, is there someone on the space? Oh, yes, you can't go to a space that somebody's interacting with, which complicates things a bit, but that's okay. So basically, how can I make it so that if I select, oh yeah, that, you know what, that invalidates this guy. I had a cool little pointer system and I wanted to use it to like help you mouse over to the area, but if we're doing a grid box UI, then I probably won't need it. It just depends on what my fellow developers want. And I don't think I ever got a straight answer on this. The options menu. If they have an ability, it should be able to activate it via this menu. If they use their ability, they won't be able to move attack on that turn. This is gonna be so complex. I love it. Well, maybe not. We'll see. So it depends on the struct is going to be a move. So this struct implies that there's going to be a move, and how can we do an action? Maybe we do a string as an action. So like, obviously, say you cast a spell. Say you use an item or you cast a healing spell. Your final position will be your current position, and the effect that you will have, or that is planned to have, is a change in your HP for the positive. I'm not sure how to evaluate that yet. It's 1:21. I should get going to bed soon. But tasteful development. Let's see. So if we have these little packets, structs of these data, vector to current position, vector to final position, assuming that this is a move, so this is only relevant if it moves. And then is there a target? How could I interpret this? So say that, let's consider an example where we have an enemy here. We are here, and we want to combat him. Or it depends if we want to be able to move and then attack, and then we smack him with a sword. So it depends if we're doing things the Fire Emblem way, where we have a maximum range and then an additional effective range. So in Fire Emblem, this would look a little something like, you have like boop, boop. There might be leaks in here, which is kind of bad. And then say that's all we can move. Then these spaces are red because we would attack here or something. And that's how it would look in Fire Emblem. It's a bit broken for the way this game operates, but hey. So it depends if we want to do that, or if this move would be inconsequential because we would only be able to move here. So say we can't do that. Let's assume we can't. Oh my. Let's assume we can't do that. And then we do another one of these here. Say we have an enemy here, and we have us here. And we want to engage this guy. I have to come up with an engage symbol. Let's do a very straight 3 arrows for engage. So we're attacking him. So the final position we chose, if there's someone on this tile, then we should be able to attack them and select them like in Fire Emblem when it says like a little text box with like a sword or something like that. I think that works. So let's see. If I were to type up some pseudocode for this, that would be like turn data, and then it would be like vector2 current position equals new vector2 user.x user.z technically, and we can use those because I made it so that I'm no genius and I just made it so that the rounded numbers of the coordinates actually on the field, like in the editor, can correspond to tiles and things like that. Whatever. So let's just go with that for simple stuff now, and we'll deal with the complex stuff here. Vector2 final position equals new vector2 user x. So let's call it UIX, then UIY, because the player has selected this in the little micro UI guy. And how do we evaluate this? It sounds like I'm not having fun, but I'm having a lot of fun, I assure you. So let's see. Take the current position and define it. Step 2 is to take the final position and define it. So in this case, 3. If the tile selected has an enemy unit on it, we won't move and we will attack it. If the tile selected has a friendly unit on it. Oh, I'm such a big fan of the garrison as like a deck leader sort of thing, where you have items that you can give from your deck leader, like Fire Emblem Awakening. It's like a cool fusion of Pokemon in that, a little bit. If the tile selected has a friendly unit on we will interact, maybe. 4 is going to be id out. None of these is a question mark. There you go. And so what would this be in? This would be in tile select. In the tile select process. So you start from a user. Oh, this is gonna be so cool when I make it. I'm so happy. I'm a very happy boy, because I foresee that when I complete this tile select. So right now I've laid the groundwork. I've sown the seeds for how I want the game to look and how I want the game to operate. I'm finding out for myself how interaction should be doing things, and I'm just sort of figuring things out as I go, which is pretty good, and I'm being responsible and not touching the code till I know almost exactly what I want to do. So maybe tomorrow I'll code something for this. I would doubt it though, because I've got a lot of things to study for. And yeah. I just want to make it clear that I am working on this game and that I really, really, really love it. I'm just having such a fun time. And I want to be responsible and adhere to a semblance of structure, and I hope that my team understands that. I'm going through a rough patch with finals right now, and I need a little less time than usual devoted to the game, but I am working on it almost every day in bits like this that I figure stuff out, either here or at school. But for now, I'm gonna have to sign off as to dry my laundry, 30 minutes late, whoopsie, and yeah, have a good night, y'all. Thanks for humoring me.